I'm very honored to be here. I was born and raised in Jerome, Idaho. You familiar with Jerome? Those of us from Jerome, we call it J-Town. So if you ever hear me refer to J-Town, I'm referring to Jerome. I'm one of 6 children. I'm the 4th of 6. Come from a beautiful family. And if you've ever been to Jerome, you probably smell it before you see it. It's cow town. And so I worked on a big dairy farm there. And so it's kind of providential that God gave us this reading from Amos today, shepherd in a sycamore dresser, because wasn't a shepherd of sheep, but I know cows. So if you want to talk about cows, I can do that, Holsteins. And then when I went to seminary at Mount Angel Abbey for a while, Benedictines are self-sufficient. There's a giant orchard, so I worked in their orchard for a long time. So I'm kind of like Amos. I'm just an ordinary, simple guy from J-Town who worked with cows and trimmed trees. But in God's providence and by His grace alone has called me to this ministry. And so here I am, a servant of God to be with you. And I think it's very providential that the Lord has given us, through the church, these scriptures to reflect upon, about the call to spread the good news in the gospel. Because that's certainly what I have been called to, is to proclaim the gospel. But sisters and brothers, it's not just my call, it's our call. And that's what I want to speak about today, is to invite all of you into this ministry, so to speak, together. This is what Pope Francis has been basically screaming from Rome. You know Pope Francis? You heard of him? Okay. Who doesn't? And he's had a pretty consistent message about having all of us as a church participate in a new evangelization. What that means is us in a new way, or starting over, or just getting out there again, all of us as people living the gospel in our ordinary lives. He says things like, we got to smell like the sheep and get out there and be with the people. And most of us are like, yeah, Pope Francis, that's great, that's awesome. I hope you do that. Yeah, that's really great. I can't do that. I'm not called to that. I'm here to tell you, you are. You are. It's not this person's job or that person's call. It's ours. And that's what I want to talk about today, is our call from God to do what these 12 did. And you might be in your pew thinking, yeah, but who am I to do that? Who was Amos? Peter was a fisherman. Matthew was a tax collector. And on and on. Who are any of us? And that's just the point. Who are any of us? We are all of us. We're God's people. And all of us are commissioned. We've been baptized. We've been given the Spirit of God to go out and proclaim the gospel to all the nations. The last words of Jesus Christ in the Gospel of Matthew is, go out to all nations and make them my disciples. Teach them to observe all that I have taught you, and baptize them in the name of the Father and of the Son and the Holy Spirit. So let's do it. I can't do it alone. And I really can't do it alone. And I want to share with you that literally I can't do it alone. Father Jairo and Father Javier were transferred. And I have come here alone. There's no second priest coming here. It's me. Hi. There was hope for a second priest to come. He's coming from a different Columbia. Immigration issues and paperwork. It might be 2 months. It might be 4 months. Who knows? It's me. Hi, I'm your pastor. So I'm going to need your help. And there's no other priest to send. If there was another priest to send, I'd call him up. And so would the bishop. But there isn't. So we need to work for vocations. And Jesus said about vocations, beg the Lord of the harvest to send laborers into the vineyard. And we have a beautiful adoration chapel right through that wall. And I'm going to ask all of us to go there a lot and to kneel before Jesus and beg that laborers be sent into the vineyard. But you know what? I'm not worried though. I'm not afraid. I'm scared. I'm fine. Bring it on. There's only 12 at the beginning. And Jesus said, I'll be with you always. You have nothing to fear. I will never leave you. He told Peter, I'm building a church. I'm building a church on you, and the gates of hell will never prevail over it. Even if a mother could forget her child, I would never do that to you. So I'm not afraid. I'm filled with hope. But it's also a time in which we're going to do it together. And good things can happen. So I want to give you some practical advice on how to be an evangelizer. Because here's the thing. I think that all of you desire to have a deeper relationship with Jesus Christ, a more powerful prayer life, a deeper sense of God's providence in your life, and a deeper connection with the Holy Spirit. I really believe you want that. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. I highly doubt that there's someone in this chapel saying, you know what, my prayer life is so intense, God, I wish you would calm down. If that's you, will you be my spiritual director, please? Most of us are wanting a deeper prayer life, a deeper encounter, a richer experience. And I can tell you how to get that. If you want that for yourself, here's what you have to do. Evangelize. Evangelize. And the gospel today teaches us, we always go to Jesus as the example. Jesus gathered around himself some ordinary people, the 12, his gang. And I'm going to paraphrase how Jesus was with them. This is a paraphrasing. Jesus says, hi 12. Hi Jesus. Gentlemen, I want to teach you the truth about God. So I want you to come here every Wednesday from 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock. And no, it's not what he said. He didn't set up a CCD class for them. And I'm not mocking that. But what he did first was, he said something like this. This again, paraphrase. Gentlemen, would you like me? I would like to teach you about the incredible, tender love of God. Would you like to learn about that? Yes, Jesus. Great. Come with me because I'm going to a leper colony today. And he would take them to the leper colony and he would heal. And they would follow Jesus. That's why he instructed them to wear sandals. Take nothing but sandals because you're going to be walking. They were like little ducklings following Jesus. No offense. But they went everywhere Jesus went, they went. Next day. Hey brothers, yes Jesus. Today I want to teach you about the incredible mercy of my Father. Would you like to learn about that? Yes Jesus. Great. Come with me because we're going to dinner at the house of Simon. He's a tax collector and there's going to be some prostitutes there. And I want to show you about the mercy of God. Come with me. And they would go and they would have dinner there. And he would live out the mercy and tenderness of God in action. Next day, gentlemen, yes, Jesus, I'd like to show you about the providential care of my Father, how he desires to care for and make sure that you have everything that you need. Can I show you that? Yes, Jesus. We'll pack your bags. It's going to be a 3-day journey, and we're going to go up into the hills. And when he got there, he said, let's feed these people. We don't have any food. I'll take care of it. And he fed thousands of people with a few loaves and a few fish. Are you getting what I'm saying here? That Jesus taught his disciples and they fell in love with him by following him, by evangelizing, by doing ministry. They didn't fall in love with Jesus by sitting in their chair. They fall in love with Jesus by living with him. Now, Jesus did take them aside and he taught them in parables and he instructed them. So we need to do doctrine and we need to study. But what Pope Francis is inviting us into is to be like that. And we can all do that. In other words, you don't have to go to your neighbor and say, are you saved? Do you know the 7 sacraments? Can you recite to me the 10 commandments and the Beatitudes? Nothing wrong with that. But what Pope Francis is saying is, let's not start with that. Let's start with something different. And I'm going to give an example of one way in which you all can evangelize. And it will change your life. If you want your life changed, listen up. Do this. This afternoon, go home. Go home. Go home. Go out on your front porch and look forward. Your door is behind you. Look out your front porch. Look to your left. and look at the houses, unless you live in the country, but look at the houses in your neighborhood. Do you know the 3 neighbors to your left? And these 3 neighbors? And these 3 neighbors? And these 3 neighbors? Do you know them? Do you know their names, their children's names, what they do? Do you know them? If not, that's your first job. If we got to smell like the sheep, we got to at least be with them and know them. And some of you are like, oh man, I don't know if I can do that. Yes, you can. Introverts is going to be hard. Some things are going to be hard. Extroverts, some things are going to be easier, but some things are going to be harder. But this is the call. He sent them out, and they were like, okay. So first of all, get to know your neighbors. Literally know them. And then start to pay attention to them. Pray for them individually by name during your prayers. And then as you start to pay attention to your neighbors and invest in them, those 6 people, so that's a total of 12. Those 12 houses, that's your 12. That's your little mission field. And you're going to got your eyes and your heart on them. And you're going to start to pay attention. You might notice, hey, that couple over there, they had a baby. Or geez, someone over here, there was a death in the family. Or an injury, or whatnot. And when you notice that, you're going to respond. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to, hey, you had a baby. Or something happened. You're going to bake a casserole. Or something. And you're going to go over to their door, and you're going to knock. Hi. I heard that this has happened in your life. I brought you dinner. And I want you to know that tonight, my whole family is going to be praying for you. And if you need anything, just let me know. We're here for you. And here's what's going to happen. First, they're going to fall on the floor. And when they stand up after the shock has wore off, they're going to be deeply impressed, and they're going to start paying attention to your house. Every time they drive by your house, they're going to be like, that's the house. And they're going to start paying attention. And they're going to see you just being the love and mercy of God in your neighborhood. And someday you might bump into them as you're pushing your big garbage tote out there and you're there together, and they say, you know what? I've been noticing your family. You guys are beautiful. What's your story? Then you can say, I'm a Christian. And then you begin to evangelize. See how it works? But what Pope Francis is saying is we start with the love and mercy, and then we work into the proclamation. Can you do that? Will you do that? I gave you one example, and you can discern and think about what might work for you. That might not be your thing, but I don't want any of you to leave Mass today without having one concrete way in which you are going to evangelize this week. Please, don't leave this church building today without having in your mind and heart what you're going to do this week. Because if you leave, you probably won't do it because we're busy and stuff's going on. But if we don't do it, who will? And Pope Francis is standing there from St. Peter's begging, people of God, family of Jesus, help me show the world that God is real and He loves them and there's meaning and purpose in life. And how will they know there's meaning and purpose in life? Because you literally fed them and cared for them, and they will see God in you. And your heart will change in the process. Can you do it? That's your mission today, and it's mine. Let's do this together. So I'm brand new here, and I'm going to need your help. We're all called to this mission field together. And as I move through this process of getting to know you and you getting to know me, I'll do my best. I'm not here to turn the place upside down and just change everything. I'll do my best. But I'm not Father Jairo, and I'm not Father Javier, and I'm not Father Jerry, I'm not Father Oscar, I'm not any of those people. I'm me, but we're all priests. We're on the same job, so I'll try to do that. I have friends who are teachers, and they'll take over a classroom, and this is their favorite thing to hear. Well, Mrs. So-and-so didn't do it that way. Oh, great, thanks. Love you too. I'm going to do my best. But I wear my own shoes, and I'll do the best that I can. And I want to love you, and I want to serve you. So be patient with me, and let's move forward. To conclude, in a couple moments, we're going to have the offertory. That's when the bread and wine is brought forward and placed on the altar. Here's what I would ask that you do. During that time, if you can think of that one thing, I want you to unite it with the bread and the wine. We use bread and wine. The bread and wine is meant to represent our lives. That's why we use bread and wine. The bread and wine represents our lives. So take your life, your commitment, and place it spiritually into that bread and wine. And that bread and wine gets placed on the altar of sacrifice. This is called the holy sacrifice of the Mass. And as a priest, by God's grace, I unite that sacrifice, that your life, in the bread and wine. I unite that to the sacrifice of Jesus Christ on Calvary. That's what's happening. So our sacrifice gets united to His great loving sacrifice. It's by grace. And then Jesus takes that, all of that together, and He offers His own life with ours to the Father. That's how we're saved. And so He takes your prayer and He gives it to the Father, because Jesus is always about giving to the Father. And the Father always receives from the Son. And because you and I are brothers and sisters of Christ in baptism, God the Father receives our gift just as He received Christ, because we're all His children now. And so He receives our offering, our sacrifice, and He receives it, and He loves it, and He blesses it. And then He gives it back to Jesus, who gives it back to us by the power of the Holy Spirit, and we receive it in Holy Communion. That's the Mass. And that empowers us, and at the end of Mass, I will say, the Mass is ended. Go and proclaim the gospel with your life. And that's what we're going to do today. So let's keep each other in prayer. Brothers and sisters, Jesus gathered the 12 and began to send them out and gave them authority over unclean spirits. He instructed them to take nothing for the journey but some sandals. And wherever house you enter, stay there. If they do not welcome you or listen to, leave there and shake the dust from your feet. And so they went off, and they preached. And the rest is history.